Hey there, Darren Garman, and welcome to this episode of the Heartland Multifamily Show. The place, that's right, the place for all things multifamily. And we're going to talk about a topic today on this episode that you are going to absolutely love, and it's called getting rich. That's right, getting rich and using multifamily in order to get rich as the tool for you to get rich. So let's jump into this episode. We're going to talk about how you can get rich by using multifamily. Welcome to the Heartland Multifamily Show, the shorter, more profitable path to multifamily ownership and investing. All right, I'm glad again that we're going to cover this episode because really at the end of the day, this is one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, many people get involved, many investors, maybe you're one of them, gets involved in multifamily. And it's about being able to get rich by doing so. Now, before we get into the information, do me a favor, if you would. If what we talk about on this episode resonates with you, make sure you leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you and have some dialogue with you about this episode. And also, if you like what you are watching, if what we talk about again here resonates with you, make sure you click that subscribe button below so you don't miss out on any other episodes here at the Heartland Multifamily Show. All right, so are you ready? Are you ready to get rich in multifamily? Let's talk about the three ways that you get rich with multifamily. Okay, let's jump right into it. But before we do, let's go ahead and let's go over what rich is. Because here's the good news. There's no wrong answer with what rich is. Everybody's got their own definition of what rich is. You know, one person might want, enough income where maybe they don't have to work let's call it a 9-to-5 job. Fine. Someone else might be all the way on the other end of the spectrum and maybe they want to be a billionaire some day by owning multifamily real estate. Now, the good news is there's no wrong answer. And so whether you want just enough income coming in where you don't have to worry about that 9-to-5 and maybe have a little bit of extra money to do some of the things you may want to do, I mean, that could be a worthy goal with what we're talking about in terms of getting rich, or maybe you want to be a billionaire someday. No wrong answers. And that really brings me to strategy number one. Okay, the first thing that you need to do in order to get rich using multifamily, and by the way, this has nothing to do with multifamily. What are you talking about, Darren? We're talking about getting rich using multifamily, and the first strategy has nothing to do with it? That's right. The first strategy is simply this. Give yourself permission to do it. Give yourself the mental permission to get rich using multifamily. Give yourself the permission to remove the roadblocks that you're going to place in front of you, the brakes you're going to be putting on yourself in order to get rich in multifamily. Now, you may be wondering, what am I talking about? I'm talking about our society today. So our society today does a lot to make people feel guilty about what they have and what others don't have. Okay? So in other words, our society loves to focus on how bad rich people are, how you don't want to be a rich person, how many big problems rich people have, and how the rich are hated. Now, as one of the authors that I've read many, many books by has said, going from poor to being rich is like going from hating to be hated. Going from hating to being hated. That's the process you need to think of mentally here. Because what I find with most people, with most investors, why they don't really put the pedal all the way to the floor in wanting to get rich in multifamily, why they just don't go for it, why they don't hit their potential, is because they feel kind of guilty about what they've got so far. I'm kind of good here. Maybe I shouldn't want any more. I see what's going on out there and people are giving me messages that I should be really grateful for what I have and why I shouldn't want more or why I shouldn't want to achieve more. There's a lot of that guilt messaging out there. There's a ton. In order for you to really hit your full potential in getting rich in multifamily, whatever your definition of rich is, you got to remove that guilt. You got to give yourself permission to have thick skin and pursue your goals in getting rich in multifamily, no matter what society, people you know, even people you care about say to you. I remember when I decided to get into the multifamily business. Conversations I had with people, everyone's discouraging me not to do it. Mainly because you don't want to make a lot of money. There's bad things that happen to people that make a lot of money. We probably don't even really want you to make a lot of money. So there's a lot of guilt that is thrown at you by what people say, by what people do, even by how people look at you when you tell them, hey, I'm getting rich in multifamily and here's the way I'm going to do it. Most people won't like you. Most people will not care for you, and most people will make you feel guilty. So right now, give yourself that permission to be thick-skinned, be amused by it, but move on and move through it. If you don't get past this, you will never get rich in multifamily. It starts with what's going on up here first, my friend. You get this figured out, you go through that process that I just talked to you about, and you're going to be just fine. But if you don't, what you're looking for is going to be much more difficult, much more frustrating, and at the end of the day, it's not even going to be fulfilling unless you give yourself that permission to get rich in multifamily. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, the big takeaway on number two for you here on you getting rich in multifamily is this. Keep in mind, the wealth in multifamily is in equity, not in income. All right, I'll say it again. The wealth in multifamily is not in income, it's in the equity that you build over time. Multifamily is a long-term game here. All right, and the sooner you recognize that the way you're really going to get rich is not by having a really good income from the properties, not taking care of your bills by the income coming in from the properties. By the way, that's all good, but that's just an income source. That's not getting rich. There's a difference. There's a difference. So in order for you to get rich, you got to focus on equity. That's where the wealth is in this long-term game. So it's really about how do I continually increase and grow that equity, grow that wealth in my multifamily property or properties. That's where it all comes together in getting rich. Far too many people think it's about income, think it's about getting their bills paid, think it's about having an income to do the things that they want to do, which, by the way, all that's good. That's perfect. That's great. But that's not how you get rich. You get rich by building, working on, and focusing on the equity. Because there will be a day and time where you'll be able to tap that equity and go ahead and move that from equity into cash or something else. And that's where you have the biggest cash flow in multifamily, is when you decide to do that. And that wealth is there. But until that time, you got to focus on the wealth, understand that the being rich process is building equity. Income is good, but you want to build equity. That's where the wealth is. So that's takeaway number two in getting rich in multifamily. Now here's takeaway number three, and far too many investors make this mistake. Man, I see this so often. Here's the big mistake. Many investors, and I hope you're not one of them, make the mistake that, the hard part is when you buy the property. The hard part is finding that property, that right property. The hard part is closing, going through the transaction. The hard part at the end of the day is finding a really good multifamily property. And what a lot of investors do is that's when they take the foot off the gas, they kind of start taking it easy and think, all the heavy lifting's done. Now it's just going to take care of itself. No, my friend, no. Your work is just beginning, because actually the easy part is buying. That's right. I know that many people, it's hard to find properties, Darren. It's hard to find one that makes sense, and it's hard to find something that's going to work for me in my situation. I get that. But make sure you understand that's the easy part of this. The hard part is management. Management of the asset, of the property or properties that you're going to own and acquire is where it all has to be focused on, and that's the hard part. Okay, why? Well, because of reason number 2. We want to continue to build that equity. We want a lot of income coming in as much as we can. We want to continue to build that equity. And if you don't have your management systems tight, if you don't have your management personnel figured out, it's going to mean you will take, it'll be a lot longer to get to where you want to be in terms of getting rich. You'll have more problems, more frustrations. Heck, you may even have some properties that might even go bad if you've got management in place that is not doing a good job or a poor job, and far too many investors just turn it over to a management company. Turn it over to someone that they know to manage it. Just turn it over just so they can wash their hands of it and not have to deal, I don't want to deal with that management. Somebody else can deal with it. All right, we're going to take a quick break. I hope you're enjoying this episode. I'm going to be having a free webinar coming up, the link's below, on how to correctly and with low risk invest your IRA or 401k in really good multifamily properties. A majority of our investors do this. I do this personally. It's not illegal. Make sure you click the link below. We'd love to have you. My friend, it all starts, the hardest part, the work starts when you start owning and managing it. That's the secret here. That's the secret here. So you want to make sure when you take over a multifamily property, your management systems are down tight. Your personnel is down tight. Everything that you're working on is down tight. And you're constantly and continually, you're trusting the process, but you're verifying the management process. Again, why? Income, equity growth, which is where the wealth is. Okay, far too many investors leave it up to somebody, don't take it seriously, think the hard work's over when they've taken over a property or properties, when that's actually when the hard work begins and continues and needs to be done on a continuous basis. Okay? Now, if you do these 3 things, let's go ahead and let's recap them again. All right? Number 1, give yourself permission to get rich, to be rich in multifamily. Okay? Once you've got that roadblock out of your way, your possibilities are endless, but it's got to start there. So that's number 1. Number 2, make sure you understand that the wealth is in the equity, not the income. Remember, income's good. We like that. The more the better, sure. But the wealth is in the equity that you'll continue to build up. It's not in the income. And then number 3, make sure you understand that the hard work, the real work begins when you acquire, purchase, and start managing and continue to manage it. That's where the hard work begins. That's when most of your time, effort, and energy is going to be placed in that, because of why? More income, more equity, and you can't do that with subpar management and subpar management systems. Okay, so I've hit the 3 ways, the 3 keys in getting rich in multifamily. And as I said, if you follow just these 3 things, as you're on your multifamily quest, as you're building your multifamily empire, you will find yourself getting rich. You'll be able to hit those goals, those targets you've got set for yourself in multifamily. And who knows, maybe you'll actually be able to reach targets and goals higher than the ones that you have set. All right, I want to thank you for joining me on this episode of the Heartland Multifamily Show, the place for all things multifamily. And don't forget, if what I've talked about on this episode resonates with you, I'd love to hear your comments below. Love to have some dialogue with you. And also, if what we've talked about makes sense to you, if you like what you're hearing, make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on another episode of the Heartland Multifamily Show.